Marshall in the middle.
What's up, everybody? I'm here with First Sergeant Jake McCullen. He is the current First Sergeant at the Advanced Airborne School at the center of the universe, the corner of Long Street and Ardennes. There's a bunch of jump towers there, and many of us consider that to be the center of the universe. And he has an office there, somewhere near there, maybe down at Green Ramp, which is another center of the universe. And he's going to tell us about what's going on at the Advanced Airborne School, what kind of courses they're teaching, and what the current challenges are now. At the end, we're going to make him do 3 jumpers in 5 minutes. Proficiency to get 3 jump, and also he's going to for sure have to show us how to exit an A-series container, over Holland drop zone. And we're going to
Stinger missile jump pack.
Oh no! Break down the Stinger missile. Are we still jumping the Stinger missile jump pack?
We sure are.
Oh yay! Okay, well I actually, a little known fact, I have never actually jumped the Stinger missile jump pack out of a real aircraft, but I have jumped from that stupid 34-foot tower with it. Every time that there was any kind of a demonstration to be done, Dan would say, okay, Will, go put your dang Stinger on, go jump out the tower. They're going to bring it by here at 1:35 or something. And so I'd go get little thing, and I'd get up there in the door, and I had the little spiel about it all, and I would talk about it. And that thing does it lower now? Because it didn't lower like half the time. That some bitch wouldn't lower.
It's probably still the same exact frame
God.
that they used back then. So
oh my gosh. So there's folks on here. Look, Bennett's on here. So Dan Bennett is an absolute legend in the things that we do. He's the guy that taught me about what it was like to be a leader. He's the guy that looked at us and said, look, we're all pros here, and I'm going to call you by your first name. And I'm not doing it to be flippant or to be anything other than I want you to understand that you're a pro. And it was really neat. It was really, really neat, that kind of, and I was a young sergeant. I had just won the NCO of the year for the 82nd. So I thought I was hot shit. And, I don't know, I was fitting and wearing. I was rookie number 13. And I remember John P. for Paratrooper Hines, pulling me aside one day, and he goes, hey, you realize you can make a correction on a jumpmaster student without making a spectacle. Do you understand that? And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, you see something across the circle, and you'll holler his roster number out 4 times as you walk over there to him. Like he's somehow in tune to you talking to him. And I'll never forget that. I began going up to jump masters, and I would get their attention quietly, and I would try to help them a little bit. But for a while, I thought it was my job to scream out, roster number 34, roster 34. What are you doing? Get your thumb off the static line. It's, I don't know. It's just young stuff, right? It's like when I was a first sergeant, I had guys in my unit that I wouldn't let be a courtesy patrol. I wouldn't. No, they'd be like, Top, why can't I go on courtesy patrol? I mean, you had to have the whole damn town in the lockup, man. You'll be over there getting everybody in jail, man. So tell me about what's happening, man. So tell me just a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from. It's neat to talk to a real soldier, or active, I salute you. Thanks for your service, man. So tell me about what's going on. You're my hero.
So I'm a medic by trade. To my knowledge, I'm the second. I originally put my name in to try to get this job because when I went through jumpmaster school, it was First Sergeant Woodruff. And I, every time I was in the swingland trainer doing a rig X or, waiting to be called in or something, he would come over and find me because he saw my CMB, and he would remind me every time, I'm a medic, right? It's like,
okay.
Yes, First Sergeant, I know you're a medic. So, and then I worked for First Sergeant Epps later on. He was Hat 181, and those two guys, played a huge part in my life. And I've just always wanted to be a part of this organization. And, finally I got the chance. as a first sergeant. So I'm doing everything I can to keep the legacy alive and keep all the older hats, still in tune with the schoolhouse, and inviting all the ones that I know who I've met throughout the years to come back and visit, and the doors are always open. All right, the Herc trainer's still got AC if you want to come and do some hand and arm signals. We we welcome the older hats to continue to come around, because without the legacy, then we wouldn't have the tradition that we have now. And so it's super important to stay tied in with especially, to me they're the old guys, but to you guys they're the young guys, right? Like the 180, 160 hat numbers. Those are the guys that I came up through Jumpmaster around. So it's still the 82nd Airborne Division. We're still, doing controlled chaos and trying to do everything last minute, like always. Our class numbers are we're still doing 10 classes a year for Jumpmaster. We're doing roughly 13 to 14 a year for AMCO. UMO is no longer with the schoolhouse. They're a separate entity. Our tower team is overworked, underappreciated, and, just hosed constantly with the new updates and new rewrites, and everybody wants to do an executive JMR because they think they're important. And we entertain as much as that we can handle, and when we can't, we just politely tell them that you'll have to come whenever it's time for you to come. And S&E is our face, right? They're the face of our division, so they're out there in the pack shed for all the brigade mass tack weeks. They have 5 jumps a week, and my S&E team is in the pack shed every single night, doing those on the spot corrections, trying to do some mentoring to the younger jump masters, and not just walking up and doing the hey, you're dumb, this is wrong. It's, hey, let's look at page 136 in the case up, tell me what it says, and giving them the ability to learn something and not just have that corrected moment. So Jump Master is evolving. We're looking at ways that we can connect with all of the students that are coming through, right? There's always going to be the smart ranger, and there's always going to be the strong ranger, and we're trying to figure out a way to teach both during the same course. So we're doing some different things, and we're trying some new things. I'm sure it's every 5 years, it's something new, but it was tried 10 years ago and it just fell by the wayside because somebody didn't like it or whatever. But we're finding ways to connect, and getting videos out there to help the students in their off time to study for JMPI, and allowing them to have the resources available to be able to study in their off time, because it's fast paced. It's still 15 days of instruction, and I mean, before that it was 9 back in the wonder years, the wonder how people passed years.
Right.
But it's a hard school. We have a lot of recycles, but we have a lot of people that come through first time, and they're successful because it's what they want to do and it's who they want to be. And so the message that I push on the instructors is that we're creating the best quality jump masters versus the most quantity jump masters. And so we're spending the time in the circles, making sure that they have that hand placement the right way, and they're focused. And these students, they're eating it up. They figure out which instructor that they mesh the best with, and they kind of latch on to them. And they don't really make a relationship with them, but they're the ones that they'll ask the questions to, and they're the ones. It's still, I'm sure, the same way it was, back in 51, where it's, you find somebody that you look up to, and they're the one that you follow. So we're short on instructors right now. Our MTOs, hurting. We got a lot of people that are on their way out. So we're actively out there recruiting in the streets and trying to find those quality people that we want to be there, not just who's available. So we're being picky. It's one of those jobs that you just can't take everybody, and taking the right person is going to have an impact on potentially somebody's life. And so we're we're pretty strenuous with the interviews and with the 5-minute classes. And the day zero it caught me off guard with how wild it was, and it wasn't even as wild as the former rookie parties were. So
Dude, you
wasn't ready for it. Nobody prepared me for it. So
you have no idea. My rookie party, it was me and Thornton and Hunter, and we ended up at the office where we got into a fight with these guys that were assaulting these females, and we left there, and P-Shock said, Rick's. So we went to Rick's, and it was he ended up retiring as a general. Schweitzer, Marty Schweitzer's going away party for being the commander, and it was crazy nice. Dan Bennett bought me my first lap dance ever. Yeah, we're sitting there, right? We're sitting there, and the he looks at me and he's like, Will, have you ever had a lap dance before? And I'm like, no, I'm sitting at the bar drinking a beer. I'm married, man. I'm going to church the next morning, probably I'm going to church the next morning. And all of a sudden this girl comes walking over to me and she's like, grabs me. She goes, hi, I'm from Alabama too. And I'm like, hi. She's like, come with me. And I'm like, I followed her. Dan was like, have fun. She's like, he paid, so don't worry about it. The old hat party, man. Yeah. The old hat party. So tell me about what kind of things trip up jumpmasters now, trip up jumpmaster students. Is it still JMPI and some kind of time standard kind of thing?
Yeah, so we're it's a new parachute system for the reserve parachute. So it's the T11 single pin, right? So it's similar to the T11 or the T10 reserve, right? It's got the spring assisted loops on the outside to help open the pack closing flaps, but it's a bigger square reserve parachute. We put the 5-foot universal sideline extension on during the C-17 for the combat equipment jumpers, have the 5-foot extension. Okay. And so that way during the sequence now, part of that is you break your hands, you break the girth hitch to make sure that it's proper, and then you regain your free running end, and then you stow and go. So that added like 15 seconds to the 5-minute time with that kind of what they came up with was a 15-second addition. And then the single pin took 5 seconds off. So they made it 5:10 was the time for a while. We're going now solely to single pin reserves only. We're gonna teach the legacy T11 reserve parachute at the end of the course as just an additional, but now they're only going to be tested on the new legacy reserve, and it has a clear plastic window behind the ripcord handle, and so you can see through this clear window and see the curved pin going through the closing loop, and it's pretty cool technology. But of course, the Army picked the dumbest way possible to create this clear window, because as soon as it cracks or breaks, now it's unserviceable and you got to turn it back in. So they gave us plastic instead of like a moldable kind of clear gel type of material, or just close it off completely and don't inspect the curved pin. And that's that, but that's neither here nor there. This next July class we pick up on the 27th. We're going to do completely single pin. So we're going to go back to 5 minutes, 3 jumpers in 5 minutes. And we'll see, if these jumpmaster students are ready. A lot of them struggle with the written test.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say a lot of them, but the majority of our reentry losses come from the written test. Our classroom instruction is the first 4 days. And so after those 4 days, you study the material that you have and you take the written tests on, day 6, and it is what it is.
Is it still a fill in the blank?
It's true or false. It's multiple choice, and it's fill in the blank still.
Oh my gosh. So I wrote the very first test that included multiple choice.
Yeah.
That are you guys still doing the jump master course?
Yep. We still teach MJM. That's in our tower committee. We have made it and kind of evolved it a little bit more, so it's very immersed into not just classroom instruction, but we also take them down to the pack shed. We take them to observe jumpmaster rehearsals for a line that's going on, so then they can see what all goes into being an MJM and not just hearing a black hat sit and tell you that you got to rehearse, you got to know what the rehearsals are and know how to do it all. And we take them to go to rehearsals. We take them to the pack shed to show them, all of the errors in rigging. The Mossy is Narnia, and everybody just puts everything they can in the modular airborne weapons case. So it's a lot of, hey, you can't put that in there, or hey, those two things don't go together, and this is where you got to put that. And so the MJM students are getting that firsthand experience of making on the spot corrections, without being super abrasive and trying to get more flies with honey than with vinegar. So, and then we take them out to a drop zone. They observe a DZSO or a DZSTL, whichever type of mission that's going on, and they see how the setup goes for not just the code letter, but how to do the pie ball, how to put out your flanker lights, how to put up your RAM, what the radio frequencies are, and how many radios you have to be able to communicate with the pilots and the DACO and your drop zone party, and how to place all of your drop zone party across, Sicily or Normandy or Holland. And it's very immersive. It's 4 days. They leave after those 4 days ready to go back to the force and enforce the standards and live the standards. So we got a really good group of teachers that are super passionate, and so it's amazingly helpful. And we have a lot of people out in the force that are tied into the schoolhouse that help us get out there for all these lines, and former hats that are now platoon sergeants back on the line. We go out on their DZSO times, and it's like having 15 black hats instead of just the 2 that we have. So
right. What's it like to be a soldier now? Are you deployed all the time? Or are you tell me what the op tempo is like.
The op tempo is still high. I mean, it's never going to be low in the 82nd, I don't think. They've had a couple of activations for the IRF. It was GRF. Now it's the immediate response force. Somehow it keeps being 1st Brigade. Love to put 504 out the door. So
amen, right?
That's where I came from. I was the medical company 1st Sergeant in 1st Brigade for 2 years, and then came over to take over USAS after 1st Sergeant Martinez. I spent 2 years training those medics, and then the month after I left, they got the call that they were deploying, and I was like, no, it was supposed to be me.
Oh,
I was supposed to take them over there.
Oh,
but I'm in a better position, and I'm able to have a lot more impact, and hopefully, after whenever I hand it off to whoever I hand it off to, it's better than however I got it. And the goal is to just keep the legacy alive. And we're working with the 82nd Airborne Division Association to create a chapter for USAS. The president right now is a former, 1st Sergeant, James Grimes. And so he's super tied in. I called him whenever I took over. I looked up to him back whenever he was a cav weirdo running around with his cowboy hat on, or whatever they call it. And he was super excited for me. And I asked him, like, hey, is there a way that, we can get a reduced price for instructors to join the association? It's just, you were a former hat and you know what it's like being here. And he was like, no, but we can look at, a chapter for USAS. And then, we can open it up to the former hats and the new hats. And, the goal is to operationalize the reunion. And so now if we do some fundraising throughout the year and earn some money for the chapter, now we can pay for the golf scramble and bring everybody in instead of you paying out of pocket. Now it's you coming in to relive your glory days and see the old friends that you haven't seen in 15, 20 years, and you're not paying out of pocket to do it. So
the first that I know of golf outing that the Advanced Airborne School ever had, maybe it was happened before me, I don't know, but Dan one day said, let's all go. And so we took Hankins and Hatner and Close, and I think Shirley was there. But friggin' Hankins wrapped a friggin' golf club and a little pull cart around this pine tree, man, and then had to drag it all back cockeyed and paid for it and stuff. Man, that was so much fun. We did some crazy stuff back then, man. It was crazy, right? Yeah, Dan said that's the very first one. So everybody, Dan Bennett's on with us, checking this out. We got for sure we got Tobias Geist. He says the main thing that causes jumpmaster students to fail is overthinking.
Yeah.
And then Dan says nomenclature exam and pre-jump should never be a problem for a prepared student. I agree. I totally agree. I sure had all my stuff memorized before I went down there. You guys still coming in early and drinking coffee and listening to pre-jump like in the like 4 o'clock in the morning?
It's more like 6 now, but yeah, it's an early day for sure. And Jumpmaster currently is taught out of Pack Shed 1. We've had the buildings, is probably old as Jesus, so it's falling apart, and the water fountains are crap, and the AC goes in and out all the time. So it's not really conducive to having students in a place where they can't learn and not have to worry about their safety at the same time.
What's so wild is those were brand new build for us. Those are brand new buildings, right?
Same building.
Dan and I built the building that where the towers are.
Yeah.
And we watched the old green ramp classroom with the big platform. Man, when you stepped up on the old school when we were down at Green Ramp back in the old days, man, you got up on that platform, man, you were up, you were high. And there was a commanding position with that slant table and everything.
It's probably still the same platform.
Yeah, right. I think we had 3 of them, maybe 4, because we had 2 in the turd classrooms. But those I was there last year about this time and visited and went into the classroom down at the Pack Shed, and it was neat to hang around with the hats. I'll tell you that the group of people that I was assembled with were such high quality. I mean, high quality folks. Is it still the same way? We still got great black hats?
Oh, 100%. They're the people that chose to be here, that chose to make their profession making the airborne population safer. And it's a very niche group of people. I mean, I did a poll of how many people are even qualified to come apply for the job in the 82nd Airborne Division, and there was 80 people that met the minimum requirements.
Oh, wow.
So just having, senior parachutist badge or master parachutist badge, that was the bare minimum. And then from sergeant through sergeant first class. And then I looked at we use an enlisted manning cycle now. And so I filtered it to where their manning cycle was later on, and that slimmed it down to about 80 people that we can go out and try to hire.
Wow.
And that's 15,000 people in the division.
Wow.
So
and so that's the interesting thing, because you got to kind of try to hire somebody.
They're still going through candidacy. They still got to earn their hat. They still have to earn all of the things. It's not a candidacy like I'm sure a lot of people went through, but it's a 30-day proving session that the group wants to work with you, that you are earning your place in this company, and that you are dedicated enough to put in the work to memorize the either fit and wear or nomenclature. And if you don't and you get washed out, then maybe we'll see you in 6 months, but you'll probably have a bad taste in your mouth because you'll play the victim and blame the black hats for you not putting in the work. So
There's a lot of work, man. You learn that fitting and wearing POI, or you do a couple pull-off demonstrations with that nomenclature exam, and you, whoo! And plus, when you stand up there, y'all still like give them have the students have the turds teach while you're on break and stuff, and go listen to
Yep.
them, and
yeah,
still have a hat class and a committee class.
they do a lunchtime training when they're in candidacy, and so they're sitting in the corner, right? We don't have the CTO like in the Taylor Street Schoolhouse, but they sit in the corner and they study their POI, and they're referencing all of the material that they can. And randomly some of the hats will walk over and ask them like, hey, what are you struggling with? And they'll give them some crumbs along the way, but it's on them, and that's the conversation that I have during my interview with them is this has got to be something that you want to do. This has got to be a community that you want to be in, because if you don't want to be here, you'll get washed out. And I won't argue with my committee chief that I will try to overturn their decision. Whatever they say, that's final for me.
Right.
We'll give them first vote. And if that's what they say and this person's not cutting it, then sayonara.
Right. Dan says that underlying aspect of turd training, do we want this guy on our team? And he's going to positively affect the students. I totally agree. Well, you don't want somebody that you got to worry about having an emergency phone call for. You don't want somebody that's going to embarrass you. You got that hat on. You woo, man. So what roster number are they up to now?
The last hat we just had it was 315.
315. Wow. So after the Gulf War was when the hat started. They started with JJ.
Yeah.
And I'm going to interview JJ though. He's been dodging me, man. He's got a long beard now. He's a cool dude, man. He went to Golden Knights. I think he went to the Golden Knights for a while, then went to the Air Force and retired as a E9 head honcho there in the Air Force. Great guy. So what aircraft are y'all jumping out of and teaching and doing PWAC in now?
Primarily, it's still C-130. It's the C-130 Juliet -30, the Super Hercules, if we can get it. But it's C-130 Juliets primarily. All the C-17s are kind of spoken for. They got something going on somewhere, that those airplanes are flying a lot for. So we don't see those. We haven't seen those since February, but we're still getting after it, and we're starting to trickle in some C-17s, but all of our jats are all 130Js, and our Herc trainers are both 130Js, so they spend all their time learning that.
It takes a big effort just to schedule aircraft and get all that stuff lined up. It's a big operation, right? Who do you have to help you now?
We have a lot of we get a ton of help from the brigades. The brigades have a line. They know that they're not going to be able to fill all their chutes, and so they'll give us a call and they'll say, hey, I've got an aircraft on this day. You can have the first lift or the last lift or whatever, and we'll get the students prepped. And if it's in class, they'll do their in-class PWAC, and if it's not, then they come back whenever they're available. We got into a bit of a hole, kind of late spring, early summer. A lot of needs PWAC. I think we got up to like 70 at one point.
Oh, that's a bunch.
Yeah, but we got ourselves out of the hole. We did, a 2-ship mission and got them all graded. So we're back to zero now.
Is Jumpmaster School graduation still a well-attended event and a big thing in a Jumpmaster's life?
Yeah, it's so if they have an in-class PWAC, we do a graduation for them. If they don't have an in-class PWAC, it's just you kind of get your cert and come
Okay.
back once
Right.
you're done with PWAC, you get your cert. But when we have those in-class PWACs and we get a graduation, it's the JMPI facility is full, and all of the units come out and support, and it's standing room only pretty much. So it's still a huge event, and they all get called by name, and they get to come up and get their cert individually. So it's a it's something I remember
That's
back
awesome.
in 2014 whenever I went through and Mediano and Calais and all those.
Yeah.
Taylor Kathy, she was the one who gave me my first no-go, and I was too immature to realize that I just didn't meet the standard. And then when I finally got it, it's a whole different mentality. And then she became my battalion sergeant major 11 years later, and I was like, oh God, I'm having flashbacks to you wearing a black hat and having that scowl on your face all the time. And she was completely different. It was a super like motivating, and she mentored me all the time, and we pulled duties together, and it was like she was never a black hat that failed me before. And she's actually the reason why I'm a Pathfinder.
Awesome.
As the battalion sergeant major, she was the only one current as a DZSTL, and she was pulling all the ground duties
Oh, wow.
for HHBN to be able to do rotary jumps. And I was like, hey, I can't let you do this. I'm sick of watching my battalion sergeant major pull ground duties, so I want to go to Pathfinder and replace you. And she was like, all right. And she got me into the next MTT, and the whole time I was in there, I was like, you asked for this. You asked to be studying for this. So I had a little sticky note, you asked for this.
I love it.
That got me through.
I love it. So what's next for you personally? Is this how long have you been in, that kind of thing?
So I'll be at 17 years in September. The OMLs for the Sergeant Major Academy just came out last month, early this month. I don't know. I had a pretty competitive OML, so I'll probably end up in the Sergeant Major Academy next summer.
Yeah, okay.
I was number 3 out of 262 for the 68s in the Army. So
Yeah, heck yeah.
I guess this job's doing something for me.
Amen. Well, good. Hey,
Yeah. It's
look,
not something that I've dreamed of. Like, I'm a medic. I don't want to be a sergeant major. I want to stay in the trenches doing, the hood rat stuff with the guys pulling the triggers and going out to the field and doing all that kind of stuff. And for a medic, I'm going to end up in a hospital or a medical brigade or something like that. And it's just nowhere I've been. I've spent 10 out of my 17 years in the 82nd, and I don't want to leave. So hopefully I can come back and be a part of like the division staff if I go to the academy and still make an impact on the division. It's just, I drank the Kool-Aid early. I started off in the 173rd, and I had a bunch of sergeants and staff sergeants that came from the 82nd. They're like, this is all wrong here. You guys are all doing stuff dumb. And this was all I knew. And they convinced me to re-enlist for the 82nd whenever we were deployed. And I came to 3rd Brigade as a sergeant with 12 jumps, and 6 months later I was a jump master.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's been all I've known in the 82nd. Just being a jump master. And
so I'm here with First Sergeant Jake McCullen. He is the current First Sergeant of the Advanced Airborne School. I want to take an opportunity to thank our donors, Aganaga, Burnett Trucking, our newest senior rated donors, Calderon, Hackey, Fernandez, Lane, Williams, Evans, Cobos, Wino, Ridgeway, Berry, Bissell. Thank you so much for your donations, our senior rated donors and our basic donors. We really appreciate what you're doing. If you want to donate, go to marshallinthemiddle.com. That's marshallinthemiddle.com. I've got essays, I've got stories, I've got over 200 interviews with heroes of mine. It's called Heroes I Know. Dan Bennett's one of the guys I've interviewed. Now Jake McCullen is going to be one soon. We're going to do a full interview. Well, probably not soon. In a few years, we'll do a full interview with you. Maybe when you become a grandkid, or become a granddad. I believe that I'm 58, and I joined the Army in '87. I was born in '68, and me and my friend group, our peers, we're just one doctor visit away from being told we got stage 4 cancer. We got some kind of issue, and I'm watching it. I just sung "Blood Upon the Risers" at my buddy's memorial service. I did it right. I stood up there and did it. As a first sergeant, I called roll 3 times for soldiers that passed away while I was the first sergeant. And the goal of all of this, Jake, is to get our stories told before we're too old or too sick to tell them. And I get to talk to one of my heroes. You're the active first sergeant of the Advanced Airborne School. You are the guy that's in the seat right now that the division command sergeant major has on speed dial.
It's
anytime.
Very speedy. That dial is ringing.
So tell me what kind of things the sergeant major calls and tells you about what kind of, it's got to be some dog and pony show stuff, but it's also got to be some real world stuff. Tell me about who's the current CSM, and tell me about the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff.
So currently the division sergeant major is Sergeant Major James Bradshaw. He was a 3rd Brigade guy for a lot of years. He was an RI for a lot of years. He's a very no bullshit kind of guy, super fit. Even though he's a division sergeant major, he's running his driver to death. That's for sure. But it's the questions that he's asking is, what can we do as a division to make a better impact in the jump masters that we're training? So how can we, impact them and make sure that they're still learning even after they graduate? And a lot of that comes down to what brigades and battalions reception and integration programs look like for their jump masters that are new graduates. So are you getting a new graduate from USAS and you're putting them straight on a jump where they're not prepared and they fall on their face and they can't manifest right and they can't seat right, and we blame them for being new, but we never took the time to bring them into the fold, teach them all the dumb stuff early, even rolling D-bags. You see rats' nests. You go to the pack shed after a jump, and I guarantee you'll see at least 11 rats' nests. And there's just a poor safety sitting there just trying to weave baskets underwater. It's because nobody's training, nobody's teaching. The senior safeties are busy. They're first sergeants now, and those guys with all the experience just don't have the availability to go out and share those lessons learned. So we're making more of a stance as a division for the brigades and the battalions to do a better integration. At the end of Jump Master School, we had additionals where we taught them, we showed them the Stinger missile jump pack, and we showed them the 60 millimeter mortar and the MOS-C with the M4, and we showed them the M10 and the MOS-C, and it was a lot of stuff in bags. But it was kind of niche to the person that was going to be jumping the equipment, right, and not beneficial 100% across the board. And so me and the committee chief had a conversation, and I asked him to give me a template for an introduction on how to be a safety. So at the end of Jump Master School, they finished JMPI. Now they come back to the schoolhouse for a day, and we spend the day teaching them how to prepare to be a safety. So how to manifest a jumper, how to do an aircraft inspection in the HERC trainer, how to rake static lines in the mock door, and even how to pull the D-bags in after the jumpers have exited. So it's not just hey, rake these static lines. All right, cool, you passed. It's where's your foot placement? Where's your hand placement? Where's your body placement? You know, we're going into the details in the mock doors with other students, so that way whenever it comes time for real life, it's I'm not learning this lesson the hard way.
Amen.
Um, we have a couple of different stations and we rotate them through the stations. One of the stations is the mock door. One of the stations is the Herc trainer. We do an aircraft inspection there. We do some manifesting there. We talk about seating jumpers in a C-130 series aircraft, right? How you got to put the outboard ruck on top of the inboard ruck so that they can stand up first. And, you know, all these details that you don't think about because you just heard outboard personnel stand up first for years.
Right.
And now we explain why. How to pull seats up, how to teach your jumpers how to pull seats up, how to go through and actually do the safety checks while your jumpers are hooked up, and what to look for while your safeties are hooked up or your jumpers are hooked up. Excuse me. And how to check leg straps after they've hooked up, and how to reassess your jumper's fatigue or, you know, the status of your jumpers. Is this a heat injury or are they just kind of being a bitch? Right? Get them out the door. That's great medical advice. It's free. And then our third station, we put them in the classroom and we show them the approved helmet systems. We let them get their hands on what's got to be taped, what doesn't have to be taped, the right helmet pads for the right helmet. We have the advanced combat helmet and we have the integrated head protection system, which is a whole new kerfuffle because they're on like generation 3 at this point.
Wow.
And they're on generation 2 ACH. So we just keep kind of going different directions when it comes to helmets. And the Gen 3 IHIPS is a high cut. And so it's now, how do we do a helmet inspection on a high cut? I'm sure it's the same, but the tower and the S&E guys are gonna have to come together and come up with helmet inspection criteria, and the pads are completely different. There's like, I think 19 pads in this helmet, and they have like cooling pads that are 3D printed. So it's all, you know, crazy stuff. I'm used to the Gen 1 advanced combat helmet that's got real thick 1 inch or 3/4 inch pads, and that's all you get.
So tell me about danger. Is the like, there was a time when we went from the old reserve to the MERPs that we were killing people, man. That stuff was dangerous. Is jumping out of airplanes less dangerous now? Is it calming down some, or there's still
No,
fatalities?
I don't think it's ever going to be not dangerous. It'll be probably the most dangerous thing that we do in the military, but making a point to do it as safe as possible is what we're focused on. You know, pre-jump's still 4 pages long, and still there's a lot of jumpers that zone in and out, and PLFs are still 4, and you still hit the rocks and hit the tire, you know, ground up tires and all that stuff. And Surge TE, right? We spend a little bit more time kind of talking them through. It's scripted, but it's recommended that the jump masters kind of go a little bit more in depth on a little bit of the reason. The sustained airborne training is always going to be the sustained airborne training. The jumper toughness has declined, and so the injury level has increased. We don't have these, you know, hardened 18-year-olds anymore that, you know, have wanted to join because that was their lifelong goal, because they saw their great grandfather and their grandfather and their father and their uncle and everybody serve in these wars, and they wanted to do their part. We got a lot of kids that came out of their mom's basement and played video games their whole childhood, and now we're trying to teach them how to be soldiers, and we throw them out of airplanes and they bounce better than they hit the ground. So the lower limb injuries, you know, it's always going to be a high thing. The head injuries is always going to be a high thing. They get scared and they tense up and slam their head on the ground or keep their feet apart and break an ankle or something, we're still dealing with 10 to 20% injury rate on the larger scale jumps. I mean, even a JRTC, it's expected to have about 10 to 20% injury rate on that jump. And they're restricting weights on rucks to the point that every single ruck has to be weighed at initial manifest and final manifest call.
Really?
Yeah. And if you're over, the brigade commander's prescribed 60-pound weight, then you have to go explain why.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. And the reason dude, we almost jumped into Haiti, and some of the stuff that some of the guys had on when we're jumping into Haiti full bear, man, dude, there was some guys, but hey, every one of them had an explanation. It's like, I'm the mortar guy. I gotta have a mortar,
Yeah.
And then I gotta have rounds, and then you had RTOs, and you had RTOs carrying dual radios and twice the batteries, and anyway, yeah. It is so wild to think about. You ever jump out of a C-141?
No. C-27's the closest, I think.
Dude, we would take 59-second drop zone, Sicily drop zone. At least back in the day, that's what it was. And we had 120 soldiers. That means one on the green light and one every half second. We could get them out in 59 seconds. And I'm talking, we were screaming out that door.
Yeah.
One behind the other. We would run down the thing. We'd be up on the seats, down the seats, up on the seats, down on the seats, because nobody could get the seats up. And so it was, dude, crazy times back in the 80s, what we would do. We were all about safety. But you got out the friggin' door, right, Bobby Scott? Bobby Scott says C-141 was crazy. That's right, dude. That's right.
We have cameras in the aircraft with us. So anytime we jump, there's a camera watching the door or both doors. And then afterward we go and we watch the footage. And you see a lot of jumpers that they got tiny heart syndrome and they're feeling sorry for themselves, and they're tired because they had to stand up for 10 minutes, and there's big gaps in jumpers, and we get people red lighted because the people in the middle are feeling sorry for themselves. And there's always going to be crazy stuff that happens. I mean, there's this last week we had BMTW, and so it was a Monday nighttime jump with a brigade size element, a Wednesday nighttime jump with the brigade size element, and then a Friday nighttime jump. And on Wednesday night, the emergency hatch got activated when a jumper stood up, and it flew inside the airplane. So they're flying, and there's just the emergency hatch is open. They're like, Air Force to your door. So there's a little reverse there, but.
Oh my God. Dan says Cherry Blast on Sicily out of a 141, dumped it in one pass, just like Will's described. I'm telling you, dude, it is crazy. It is crazy, some of the stuff that we did back then. It's been such a pleasure to hang out with you, Jake. Thank you so much for being on. I would love to schedule the Tower or Jumpmaster Committee Chief to come on sometime. So put me in touch with them if you don't mind. I'd love to.
Of course.
I'd love to pick their brains, and I want to salute you, my hero. You are currently serving, wearing the uniform.
Yeah.
I went back a couple years ago, and they let me in the circle, and I said, rotate one jumper to the right, turn to face your jumper. It was cool, dude.
It gave you chills, didn't it?
Yeah, man. It's so awesome to run the circle and to think about there's I don't know how to say this, but for a lot of people, it's hard to describe the thought of failing something, right? Yeah. Well, the level, the kind of type A sons of bitches we were, it's like failing. I'm not failing nothing. And Jump Master School, you could fail, and you had to have your shit together and and it made you concentrate. That 5-minute time constraint, that dance sequence that you had to memorize, the knowing exactly what you had to say, the nomenclature and the side it was on. I mean, you had to prove to the world that you were a subject matter expert. And I'll tell you, I stand on that today. I stand on, like, if you want to call me any title in the world that I'm proud of, it's probably grandpa and jumpmaster, right? That's something that's neat. And so, Jake, thank you for standing at the pointy edge of the spear and being out there, holding up the standards, doing the right thing. It's really neat, man. Thank you very much. I salute you. I'll give you the last word, man, and then we can sign us off.
To all of the former instructors, please come by. The schoolhouse is open anytime that you're available. Please come by. We had some former instructors come through, and they're a little meek and a little reserved. It's a new group of instructors now, and this, that, and the other. And watching him transform from kind of being reserved and kind of standoffish to going and seeing candidate training and getting right back into it. I mean, he left a different person than he showed up. So come back, come relive your glory days if you so choose to. We welcome you, and we would love to hear, the candidate questions that you guys asked, back in those days, and how you taught the students that you taught. So we can't keep the legacy alive if we don't know what happened in the past. And I'm going to continue to try to get all you older guys to come and teach us the way that made this schoolhouse successful. So I appreciate everyone. I appreciate you, Marshall, for inviting me on here. Please come by. Even if it's just a day or if it's just a couple hours or whatever, if you're in the area, you don't have to ask, you don't have to call. The door's open, you walk in, and we'll walk you through everything. We'll take you to the pack shed, we'll put you in the Herc trainer, we'll put you in the harness, whatever you want to do, right? This is still your schoolhouse. You may not work here anymore, but your name's still on the wall. You still have all of the hat numbers that are on the wall. So don't ever stray away. This is still your Mecca. Come home whenever you're ready.
Amen. Love it. Thanks, First Sergeant. I salute you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Marshall in the middle.